Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Spellbinders December 2022 card kit. The theme is Love Grows Here. And for one of the cards, I'll also be using the December 2022 embossing folder of the month. If you are interested in subscribing to any of Spellbinders club kits, I do have links provided in the description box below. Let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I'll be using some card sketches for inspiration. The first one is from Sugar Pea Designs. It's Sugar Sketch number 48. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I do share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For my first card, I selected a soft pink, sort of quilted looking pattern paper for the background. Added this lovely floral strip at the bottom of the card, and I did round the bottom 2 corners. For a little bit of shine, I'm adding some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the rose gold mirror color in the pinstripe style. I'm using the widest and also the medium width. I'll put 3 of them toward the lower portion of the card. I'll just wrap those ends around the back. Then I'll layer this panel on some dark blue cardstock. The kit does include several sheets of colored cardstock, but I'll be bringing in additional cardstock since I love to add layers to my cards. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. This card will be featuring the beautiful floral and bird pattern paper, and I did layer that on the same dark blue cardstock. I used a coral colored cardstock for the circle on the left side of that featured pattern paper. Next, I'll add a couple of the heart die cut pieces. I'll glue both of those down in the lower left-hand corner. For a sentiment on my card, I'll be using one of the puffy stickers that's included in the kit. This is "One hug is never enough." I think that's a great sentiment. It does have adhesive on the back, but I'm adding a little bit of liquid adhesive just to make sure it doesn't pop off later. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the beautiful colors on this paper. Now moving on to card design number 2. I didn't want to waste any of this beautiful bird and floral pattern paper, so I decided to take that 2-inch strip and add it to my next card. For the background, I'm using a wood grain pattern paper. Then I'll add some more of the rose gold mirror peel-offs along the edge of that floral paper. Just wrap those ends around the back. Layer this piece on the same dark blue cardstock. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. The kit does include 10 A2 size card bases and envelopes, but I never use those for actual card bases. Instead, I'll use the card base cardstock behind sentiments and images. And that's what I'm doing on this card. I cut out a stitched oval die cut from one of the card bases. And the card bases do have a linen texture on one side. Next, I'll stamp the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. I am using my mini Misti since I'm stamping it directly onto the card. The ink color I'm using is Juniper Mist by Catherine Pooler. Now I'll bring in several of the die cut images. I have the larger image of a quail, some leaves, and also some flowers. And I'll arrange all of those pieces on the white oval. I'm just laying the quail down for now without adhesive so I can tuck all of those leaves and branches behind her. Once I have all 4 of those leaf branches attached, I'll adhere my quail. And I did put a little bit of foam dimension behind the quail's head to pop her up slightly. Then I'll add the blue flower, which I popped up with foam dimension, and tuck in one of the light pink peach flowers. So there is my finished card, and again, I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 3, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 621. I thought this looked like a fun sketch with the cloud border. I selected 2 pattern papers for the background. The very top is a light gray with some white words. It has grateful, loved, not really sure what the rest of them are, but nice positive sentiments. For the bottom, it's all covered in very light pastel hearts. I used a die from Honeybee Stamps for that fun stitched cloud border. Before adhering the heart paper down, I did add a sun and a rainbow toward the top of the card. Then I'll layer it on some gray cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now I'll stamp the sentiment directly onto the card. I'm using the large word love and adding "and hugs." And I stamped it using the intense black ink from Honeybee Stamps. Next I'll add one of the die cut images, and I did pop it up with some foam dimension. We have a little family of quail and some beautiful pink flowers. And for a final finishing touch, I'll add one of the chipboard banners in the upper right hand corner. And it does have adhesive on the back, but I am adding that little bit of liquid adhesive just to make sure it doesn't fall off. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 230. I selected this beautiful floral paper for the background. It's a very light pink and it has white flowers and a bunch of leafy branches. I rounded all 4 corners using a corner chomper, and I'll add that piece onto some white cardstock. And the white cardstock is from one of the card bases, and I do have that linen texture showing. I'll layer that piece on some light green cardstock. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. Then I'll add a tag die cut, and I cut this out from a tone-on-tone, sort of a linen texture looking pattern paper. For the narrow banner that goes across the card, I cut a fishtail on both ends, and I'm using the same green cardstock that I have for the background. I'll adhere that in place using liquid adhesive. Then I'll bring in several of the die cut images. I have a birdhouse and 2 of the quails, and I did pop up both of the birds with some foam dimension. I'm adding the birdhouse on the right side of the banner. Then I'll put one of the quail on the left side of the tag and the other right on top of the birdhouse. The sentiment is "Love You," and this is one of the die cut pieces that's included in the kit. The sentiment is in gold foil, so it's really pretty. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a twine bow at the top of the tag, and this is just some twine from my stash. I'll adhere it in place using a small glue dot. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The quail images are my favorite in this kit. I'm not really a bird person, so maybe they're not actually quail, but they do have that little thing on top of their head, which usually indicates a quail. Now moving on to card design number 5. The card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 711. This is a very simple card design. I have this beautiful pink pattern paper for the background with all the lovely white flowers. I'm layering it on some dark blue cardstock. For the narrow strip on the left side, I used the same dark blue cardstock, and I did put some of the double-sided tape on the back to adhere that in place. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut, and I used another card base for that piece. On top of that, I'll add one of the chipboard frames. I thought that was perfect to go along with this sketch. It has the sentiment smile. I'll add one of the pink floral pieces on the inside, and I did pop that up using some foam dimension. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some pink sequins in the upper left-hand corner. And these are not included in the kit, but they are made by Spellbinders. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I'm laughing as I'm recording this voiceover, watching me struggle trying to open up that sequin container. It was a brand new container and it just didn't want to open, and I had just painted my nails the night before, so I was trying to be really careful not to ruin my polish. For card design number 6, I selected 3 pattern papers. For the very background, it's a bunch of squares with little white hearts in the center. Then I'm adding a strip of the green linen tone-on-tone pattern paper. I'll be layering everything on some light green cardstock, and I also cut a narrow strip from that same green cardstock. For a little extra detail, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off on that green narrow strip. I'm using the white color with gold overlay, and this is the straight design. I'll layer this piece on some green cardstock, put some ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base. I'll layer the floral piece on the same green cardstock. Before adhering it to my card, I will add some scrap cardstock pieces at the top and bottom where it goes over that green strip in the middle, and that'll help keep everything nice and level. Next, I'll add a stitch circle die cut on the left side of the card. Then I'll add one of the floral die cut pieces onto the circle. I'll adhere that in place using some liquid adhesive. The sentiment is one of the chipboard pieces, "You Are Loved." And I'll also add a small chipboard banner in the upper right hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Spellbinders always has so many beautiful floral designs in their card kits. For card design number 7, I have another beautiful floral design, this time blue with some white flowers. I'll be adding it onto a Scallop Rectangle die cut, and I use some more of the dark blue cardstock for that. Put my card front onto a card base, and you'll see just a peek of that white card base from around the Scallop Rectangle. I cut out another Scallop Rectangle die cut. This time I used one of the card bases, and I'll be adding a gold frame on the inside of that white scallop piece. I'm using some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the gold mirror color. I'm using the medium width, and I'll add one piece along the very inside edge. I do have the pieces hanging off, but just for now. Then I'll use my craft knife and miter the corners together, remove those extra pieces of the peel-offs, and now I have this beautiful gold frame. Super easy, and it adds a beautiful detail. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere this piece toward the top of the card. I'll add one of the floral die cut pieces to the inside of the frame. Then to finish off the card, I'll add one of the chipboard sentiments, just the greatest. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The sentiment on the other card is "No beauty shines brighter than that of a good heart." Now moving on to card design number 8. This is fairly similar to card design number 7, but I am changing it up a bit. I have a light gray with tiny white hearts for the background, and I'll layer that on a Postage edge rectangle die cut, and this is from Spellbinders. Put some adhesive on the back and layer that piece on some light blue cardstock. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Using the same Postage edge die set, I cut out a smaller rectangle. I used one of the card bases for that white cardstock, and I'll be adding another frame on the inside using some more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the silver holographic color in the pinstripe style, and I'm using the narrowest width. Once I've added all of those peel-off strips, I'll take my craft knife and miter the corners together, just to remove those extra pieces of the peel-offs. Then I have this fun frame with a little bit of a holographic shine. I'll put some adhesive on the back. I'm using ATG and also a little bit of liquid adhesive along that very outside edge, and that'll help it lay flat. Next, I'll add some of the die cut images. I have this large floral piece and also a couple of branches. I did put some foam dimension on the very top of each of the branches, and I'll glue down the bottom. I'll add those 2 branches behind that floral piece, then glue the floral piece down using liquid adhesive. I'm also adding a gray bow, and I did pop that up using some foam dimension. I'll adhere the bow underneath the 2 large flowers. The sentiment is one of the puffy stickers, "Hello Friend." I'll put a little bit of liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it in the upper right hand corner. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding a little bit of sparkle to the flowers and also the gray bow. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Spellbinders card kits are always packed full of products. It's easy to make way more than 10 cards. Now moving on to card design number 9, and this is one of my favorite cards. Using one of the light pink cardstock colors that's included in the kit, I embossed the background with the December embossing folder of the month. I also added a gold splatter to the background using some gold watercolor paint. I cut out a large heart die cut from some vellum, and the heart die is part of the December 2022 large die of the month. This card will be featuring the dies that are included in the card kit. I mentioned earlier in the video that I'm not really a bird person, but here's an interesting fact. My family actually raises quail, specifically Coturnix quail. They're pretty small birds and they do look different than the wild type. So I thought it would be fun to create a card featuring Coturnix quail. I'm assembling a boy and a girl. The larger quail is the girl, and she has the speckled chest. The boys don't generally have the speckled chest, so I am leaving that off. And Coturnix quail also don't have the little thing on top of their head. So that's another piece I'm not adding. We have quite a few birds, mostly female, and we collect about 3 to 4 dozen eggs every day. Since they're small birds, they do lay small eggs. About 3 quail eggs equal 1 average sized chicken egg. We have a nice variety of different feather colors in our birds, but for this card I decided to go with just some brown shades. The left side of the vellum heart will hang off the edge of the card, and for now I won't attach that heart. First I'll add all the die cut pieces. So I have the branch, some of the leaves. I also cut out some pretty pink flowers. I'll add the female bird on the left side of the branch and the boy on the right side. The females seem to be way more assertive than the boys, at least for our birds. Some of our cages have fertile eggs, so we do put them in an incubator once in a while. Then we get to see the babies hatch, which is always a lot of fun. The babies are so tiny, but they're full grown at about 5 weeks. We have a batch of eggs in the incubator right now, and they should be hatching in about a week and a half. After adhering most of the leaves, flowers, and birds, I'll flip over that heart, put liquid adhesive on the back just where all the die cut pieces are. That way none of the glue will show through the vellum on the front of the card. Then I'll flip over the card, use my scissors to trim off that little bit of the heart that's hanging off the left side. I have a couple more leaves and 1 flower to attach on the very right side of the branch. Some of the die cut pieces are fairly small, so it does help to have a pair of reverse tweezers to hold them in place. For a sentiment, I'm using one of the puffy stickers. Thought this would be perfect for an anniversary card. I'll lift up the vellum heart and add just a tiny bit of liquid adhesive underneath where I know I'll be placing the sentiment. Then I'll adhere it in place in the lower right-hand corner. Now there is a die for the center of the flowers, but I'm using some Love from Lizzie peel-offs instead. This is the gold moon dust color in the mini circle style, and I'm adding the smallest circle to the center of the 3 flowers. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll use some more Love from Lizzie peel-offs, this time the mini hearts in the same gold moon dust color. I'll add 3 of them above the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out, and it was fun to use the dies to create some Coturnix quail. Now moving on to card design number 10. The card sketch is from MFT. This is number 313, and this is another card that features the fun quail images. For the background, I have this beautiful blue paper with lots of the birds and flowers. I'll be layering it on some dark blue cardstock. I'm also adding a banner of the pink floral paper, and I'll cut a fishtail on the left side. For the image box, I have this fun pattern paper with a bunch of small pink hearts, sort of like a cross-stitch design. I'll layer that on the same dark blue cardstock. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And I'm very frustrated that I did not layer that background piece very straight. The very right side barely has any of the blue cardstock showing. I would try to pull it up and fix it, but Spellbinders pattern paper is on the thinner side and I was afraid I would rip it. Hopefully it won't be too obvious to the card recipient. I'll add a couple of the quail die cut pieces, and I did put foam dimension on the back. The sentiment is another puffy sticker. This is thank you. And I did put a small scrap piece of cardstock on the very right side of that sentiment before adhering it down. Using this same dark blue cardstock, I cut a small banner and attached it in the upper left-hand corner. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some glitter to both of the quail. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. And with this card, I think I used up the last of the quail die cut images. Now here's another look at the 20 cards I made using Spellbinders December 2022 card kit of the month. The theme is Love Grows Here. And for one of the cards, I also used the December embossing folder of the month. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. This is a monthly kit, so quantities are always limited. The only way to guarantee receiving a kit is to sign up and subscribe. And I do have links for subscribing in the description box. In order to receive the kit I showed in this video, you do need to sign up and subscribe by December 28th. Spellbinders offers a wide variety of different club kits in addition to the card and embossing folder. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.